What's a game that I don't really care about? Well, Star Wars Outlaws is certainly one that comes to mind. Pretty much everything to do with it is a red flag, it feels like. I mean, you've got the modern 2024 male gaze resistant character models. You see those, you know you're just going to be in for propaganda. You're a bad person because you're a male gamer. I hope you're entertained and I hope you feel like you spent your money well. You've got that side of it. And then you've of course got the monetization of the game itself. We've seen Ubisoft with their 1 million editions. If you only buy the base game, they treat you like, oh, you're a peasant, you only bought the base game for $70. Come on. It used to feel like that alone was too expensive, and now they're trying to charge you $130+ for everything, with DLC content that they probably created before the whole thing was even out. Anyway, you're just paying much more for the complete experience. And the weird thing is this time around, this is worse than any of their other games, I feel, because the complete edition is so expensive, it almost feels like Ubisoft are telling us they don't really want us to buy that one. Instead, they're trying to steer us towards a paid sub, the Ubisoft Plus or whatever it's called, where you pay something like $20 a month, you get access to not only Star Wars Outlaws, but the rest of Ubisoft's incredible catalog, which is essentially just the same game copy and pasted over and over, whether it's Far Cry, Assassin's Creed, what was it, the Avatar movie tie-in or something like that. You get all of those in the sub. It feels like that's the direction that they're moving in. They know if they want to keep making more and more money year after year, they can't really keep putting the prices up. People are already pushing back. Instead, it's going to be a sub, like Microsoft with Game Pass. So a sad direction we're moving in the mainstream of gaming. For me, there's so many old games I still haven't played that I hope I never have any reason to touch any of these useless subs and so on. I'll just go and play older games if I need to. But just the scumminess of Ubisoft, it's another reason to avoid this title. That's not even getting into things like Star Wars itself. As an IP, rock bottom, the idea of Star Wars being attached to a video game. Does anyone even really care these days? Like, I feel like the beloved Star Wars titles, it's not even because of Star Wars anymore. Like Knights of the Old Republic, people like it because it's an interesting space opera RPG. People seem to care a lot less about the Star Wars name these days because of how Disney have run it into the dirt. The idea of a new generation of kids getting into Star Wars, I don't think that's happening. I think Disney squandered that investment. It just seems to be constantly going downhill. And then there's the biggest red flag of them all, that this is a Ubisoft game. Before we ever saw gameplay trailers for Star Wars Outlaws, we knew exactly what we were going to get, because Ubisoft have been nothing but a factory for like the last 10 years. The same game over and over and over again. You know what you're going to get. And I will say I've been critical of Ubisoft in the past, but I'll try and be fair here. They used to be creative back in the sort of early mid-2000s, the original Far Cry games, even the early Assassin's Creed games, Beyond Good and Evil, that sort of stuff. I thought Ubisoft were quite good. I played Splinter Cell Chaos Theory recently, playing through that fantastic game. They used to have it. Now they've lost it. It feels like Ubisoft got too big. They had that fear of failure. If they had any flops, they could be in trouble. So they've just gone into full factory mode. It seems to be catching up with them though, because Far Cry's kind of fallen off. Far Cry 6 not doing very well. They're relying on Assassin's Creed, and now they're relying very heavily on Star Wars Outlaws. It's talked about that it's the biggest marketing effort that they're doing with this game. They need it to sell 20 million copies, whatever that number's got to be for them to be profitable. They're very desperate, and what they're doing is Ubisoft and Disney, this thread sort of sums it up. Ubisoft and Disney gave influencers and previewers a trip to Disneyland to promote Star Wars Outlaws. So essentially bribing reviewers, people who are going to talk about the game, bribing them into giving positive feedback about one of the most generic titles that'll release this year, Star Wars Outlaws. It's going to have extremely safe open world gameplay. Doesn't matter if you've played a Far Cry and Assassin's Creed in recent times, this is going to be exactly the same, but reskinned. It's going to be difficult for them to generate any excitement. When they made the deal to make this, probably like 5 years ago, Star Wars probably had a better reputation. Ubisoft probably thought, you stick Star Wars on it, it's going to sell gangbusters. I don't think that's really true anymore. This is all about generating fake excitement out of nothing, pretty much the Kamala Harris of video games. And I mean, this sort of crap's been going on for a long time. When it was traditional video games media outlets like IGN, Kotaku, and so on, we saw this. Even if it was never officially confirmed, you knew it went on. Like, how many times does a Call of Duty, the most generic copy and pasted Call of Duty you could get, it gets a 9 out of 10. And then a really interesting indie game comes out that takes a bunch of risks. The same outlet, the same reviewer gives it like a 6 out of 10 and so, oh, there were too many glitches, blah, blah, blah. But they ignored all of that for the Call of Duty, the mainstream titles. And times are changing. It's less about some so-called video game journalists giving a review. It's more about now an influencer giving their opinion on the game. And we'll see some of that in this post, which sort of breaks things down. A new investigation into Ubisoft's marketing campaign for Star Wars Outlaws reveals the company buttered up YouTubers and influencers with trips to Disneyland and boat tours before giving them access to 4 hours of gameplay footage. Part of that biggest marketing campaign ever was flying out YouTubers and influencers to Los Angeles to give them 4 hours with the game. Cyberpunk 20XX revealed that one of his fellow German YouTubers, Kartoffel Koenig, confirmed the claim that it was the biggest marketing campaign ever. So again, I feel like Ubisoft are desperate. A lot of their series, I think Far Cry 6, it didn't do very well. They were having a decent run in sales. Far Cry 4, which felt like a copy and paste of Far Cry 3, I thought it was fairly boring. Far Cry 5, more of the same. But suddenly people are fed up. They've had enough of Far Cry. People are finally seeing Ubisoft, they've got no creativity. It's the same game over and over. Far Cry 6 didn't seem to do very well. It's got mixed reviews on Steam. It's hard to see a positive word about it anywhere. And Ubisoft are in panic mode because they've realized we can't just keep delivering the McDonald's of video games, essentially. A really safe order. It feels all really manufactured, no creativity. They actually have to think outside the box if anything's going to sell. Feels a little bit like the modern movie industry where you just had Marvel, superheroes galore, and it didn't really matter what the quality of the film was. People would just, they'd race out to see it. You gotta see the next Marvel. That's dried up, it feels like. People are sick of it, and it's more of those out of left field films that are doing really well, like an Oppenheimer or even the Super Mario Brothers film. Like, I wouldn't have bet money that that would have done $1 billion. Like, that was kind of unexpected. It did insanely well. The usual suspect films are not doing so well, and it feels the same with gaming. Like, the big successes that get everyone talking, the Elden Rings, Baldur's Gate 3s, they're the games that everyone's talking about, recommending. They're the ones that are selling well. The Ubisoft days, not looking so good, and they're just desperate with Star Wars Outlaws. Now they're bribing people pretty openly, and they might not hand over physical money. But you know what's going on here, where it's like, you get to go to Disneyland, big trip, it's all paid for, you get all of the perks, and they might not say out loud, you've got to give us a good review, or we're cancelling your trip. But it's like, you're here, you're having a good time, and you know deep down, if you give this game a bad review, next time around, that opportunity's not going to be there. They're not going to invite you next time. If you want to be part of the club, you have to give Star Wars Outlaws a positive review. That's how it works. And it goes on here, as translated by YouTuber Kartoffel Koenig stated, we are with the largest marketing campaign ever for a Ubisoft game. And I can definitely confirm the last part, as I was invited by Ubisoft to come to Los Angeles and play in the Star Wars Outlaws event. The location was really polished up, and there was a day in Disneyland and something like that. Ubisoft spent a lot of money on that. Then footage was shared from a British influencer and YouTuber Louise Julie, who revealed she was brought to Los Angeles by Ubisoft early and was taken on a boat tour that she claims was originally a whale tour to see if we could spot any whales. By whales, was that meant to be like a meet and greet originally with the pink-haired Ubisoft developers? I guess we'll never know. She added, so basically they invited a bunch of UK creators who got there early because our flights were booked early because it's a very long travel time. It was like a 12-hour journey. I think she's just trying to make an excuse for why she was there or something, trying to downplay the idea that this was a bribe. And there's a bunch of tweets here, basically Star Wars or Ubisoft influencers showing off all the perks of the trip. Oh, look at us at Disneyland. when it's not really a flex, because it's like, who paid for this? We know Ubisoft paid for it. You're probably going to have a review out for Star Wars Outlaws in a few weeks' time, and us as the audience, are we meant to believe that when you write or record that review, that it's not going to sort of cross your mind, hang on, Ubisoft paid for my trip. I loved that trip. It was a ton of fun, saved a bunch of money, free holiday. I want that again. So am I going to shit on them? Am I going to speak honestly about the game? Or not, I'll just go through the motion, say it's pretty good, move on to the next one. That's what's been going on in reviews for years and years. That's why no one trusts reviews anymore, because it feels like for so many years, they are all bought, and now it's too late for the mainstream reviewers. They face the consequences. Most of them are getting shut down. Now, one of these people who got a free holiday, it's quite interesting because she clearly got called out for it. People challenged her on Ubisoft paying her to provide sort of positive commentary about Ubisoft, about Star Wars Outlaws. She put up a post or a comment and it said, on topic of PSA, I was not paid by Ubisoft or anyone else to make this video. Now that's quite important wording. She says, I was not paid by Ubisoft or anyone else to make this video. I was given the opportunity to record content, however it was fully my own choice to make and share content based on it. The only money I make from this content is from YouTube views. There is no shilling or hidden agendas involved. But I do find it interesting that she says specifically this video, because if we go to her Twitter, now it's the usual stuff, pronouns in the bio, and whenever I see she/them, not even they, them, she/them, it's always like, I want to be special, and they, them, too many people are doing it. I'm going to do my own thing because I'm so independent. So it's she, them, but in the bio it says hashtag Ubisoft creator. What does that even mean? Because I've seen this for some other publishers, game companies as well. Like, do you only make content that's like pro Ubisoft or at the very least talking about Ubisoft? This reminds me of like content for 40-year-old stay-at-home mums, where it's like the middle of the day, and on TV they used to have those shopping channels where it's just a couple of presenters and they spend all day selling you stuff, kitchenware, different homeware goods, and all you can do is buy stuff. It's literally, you're paying to get advertised to. And that's what this feels like when you're a Ubisoft creator. So I think it's fairly obvious that you're disclosing that Ubisoft do pay you to make content. Like, if they didn't, why would you stick to that? Why would you even talk about that, being a Ubisoft creator? So just seeing her say, I didn't get paid for this video. Well, you are getting paid in general. You just didn't get paid for that video. I'd say there's a 99.9% chance that this person at the very least is compromised. And if you take any opinions or reviews on Star Wars Outlaws seriously, if you factor those into your purchasing decision, then you're being a fool. Now, not everyone who went on this free holiday, I would say, is shilling for the game. I mean, there'll be some people who would have just gone, oh yeah, it's an opportunity to go. I'll just go and do it, but I'm not going to be held to ransom. Like, I will just give my review on the game. The problem is, though, just by going and especially posting about it, which they probably had to do, I'm sure that was one condition, you couldn't just keep it to yourself, like, it's just going to mean that the audience is just going to be skeptical, not just to this, but maybe every review in the future. Because, I mean, this bribe is out in the open, but other bribes might be behind closed doors. So if you know someone's been open to a paid holiday by the video game company, can you take them seriously in the future? It's a bit tricky, but I've got to say, for Ubisoft themselves, it just feels desperate. I reckon it's going to be one of these games, Star Wars Outlaws. Even if we hear positive numbers, like it sold 10 million copies, I don't think it's going to be enough. I think with the license having to share money with Disney, even seeing that their Avatar game, I don't think that did very well. I'm pretty sure that flopped or underdid on expectations. I don't know, it feels like Ubisoft are floundering. Assassin's Creed's all they've got left. They're hoping that Star Wars Outlaws can be some sort of resurgence for them, but I doubt it. No positive feedback, bribing people, all around pretty pathetic. And I will say this, again, I've been harsh on Ubisoft, but I don't think their games are the worst thing in the world. I think sometimes people, they like that McDonald's game where it is just something, you can totally be uninvested in it. You can just chuck it on. You don't have to think, use your brain too much. Maybe you even play while you've got a movie on the second monitor or you're listening to something in the background. Maybe you want to play for those reasons. I mean, the best thing anyone can do, so they're not really supporting Ubisoft's practices, we can see here that they've announced their roadmap for the Star Wars Outlaws plan, where you're going to get Story Pack 1, Story Pack 2, you know it's all going to be overpriced. But the thing is, Ubisoft have the opposite business model of Nintendo with these games. Breath of the Wild, whether you bought it in 2017 or you buy it today, you pretty much pay the same price. Nintendo, they keep their pricing consistent pretty much always. Ubisoft, it's the opposite. You can be guaranteed in like a year or two, you'll get the entire game packaged together, all of this DLC, whether it's worthless or not. It'll be like 15, 20 bucks. If you want to play it, don't worry about fear of missing out. You play it down the line, you get it cheap, you don't support scummy Ubisoft. All these pathetic practices, bribing people, everything else. I hope they lose big, and it's good to see them getting exposed. Thanks so much for listening. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Bye.